Hey fight fans, I'm Sarah Davis and you're watching Fight News Now Extra. An MMA fighter has retired, Firas Zahabi talks GSP-Silva super fight, and a major light heavyweight fight has been moved. We've got it all covered coming up next in our Newsmakers, and then we'll have our MMA panel break it all down, so here we go. Lightweight Rich Clemente has announced his retirement from MMA. He most recently fought at Bellator 81 and lost to Marcin Held in the lightweight tournament semifinals. The 35-year-old wrote on his Facebook that this will give him a chance to focus more on his students at Rich Clemente's Gladiator Gym. After George St-Pierre defended his welterweight title at UFC 154, the super fight talk concerning the champ and Anderson Silva continued. GSP's trainer Firas Zahabi thinks that Anderson Silva should cut down to 170 to make the super fight fair, and a catch weight is out of the question if it's anything more than welterweight. The light heavyweight fight between Dan Henderson and Lyoto Machida was looking like it was set for UFC 156 on Super Bowl weekend, but no, they haven't canceled it. Apparently, the fight will now take place 3 weeks later at UFC 157 in Anaheim, California. And those are your latest MMA headlines. Let's hear what our MMA panel has to say. John Pollock, John Ramsey, and Robin Black. The Machida-Henderson fight, is it a big deal that's moved 156 to 157?
Well, I don't think this hurts that Super Bowl card in any way. That is a very solid card, and with the announcement of all these fights, especially in Anaheim, which traditionally has been a tougher market for the UFC to draw in, I think you want to load it up as much as possible. There are a lot of cards between January and February alone.
Especially considering both Dan Henderson and Lyoto Machida call California their homes in terms of training. So I think, yes, the Super Bowl card will be missing that fight, but I think moving it makes sense.
They'll do just fine,
yeah, I think so,
on Super Bowl weekend. Sarah also mentioned the George St-Pierre Anderson Silva super fight. Are we going to touch upon this fight every single day until it is announced? Because this seems like this is going to be talked to death until this is announced, if it's announced.
Yes, we are. We are going to talk about it all day, every day for a long time. And the reason that we are is because it's one of the biggest fights that's ever been attempted in the UFC history. And you have to talk about it. We have to analyze it from every angle. We have to talk about what color their underwear are, everything. That's our job.
This is all speculation, so shouldn't we talk about a super fight between maybe Jose Aldo and John Jones? It's almost as compelling because the last time Anderson Silva fought at 168 pounds was more than a decade ago. There's no way he's getting down to 170 pounds, and George St-Pierre's team is not going to agree to anything other than welterweight. So these talks should be over, unless the UFC is willing to shell out $10 to $15 million for each guy.
Oh, I think they are.
They are.
Maybe.
Of course they are. And listen, man, GSP will fight at heavier than 170. They are talking, Anderson Silva's camp is talking about 177, 178. GSP, for Zahabi, they don't want that. They might settle for 174, 175.
I doubt it.
But they can't say they'll settle for 174, 175, or we'll end up somewhere in the middle. It's called negotiation, John Ramsey, and that's why you're underpaid in this network. You have to understand. You go in and you say you will only fight at 170, and you meet somewhere in the middle. That's why I'm the highest paid guy at this
I'm waiting for Anderson Silva's doctor to say that Anderson cutting weight could affect him having children in the future. That's always a great out. Cyborg was able to utilize that very well, and now she doesn't have a job as a result of it.
You're absolutely right, and I am not the highest paid guy at this desk.
But it should be also noted the fact here that we are so far out from this potential fight happening in this point. Do you foresee that, like, what is going to happen right now in terms of Joe Silva here booking these 185 and 170 pound divisions? Like, I feel a choice is going to have to be made fairly quickly in terms of where are we going in 2013 in terms of matchmaking here. Johny Hendricks is pretty adamant. I'll sit out 2 years if I have to wait for this title shot.
Well, that's Johny Hendricks' mistake, first of all, because you have to understand if Nick Diaz does something incredible between now and then, or BJ Penn is able to beat Rory McDonald in spectacular
Damian Maia smokes John
man.
Fitch.
Johny Hendricks is nuts to be saying that. He's absolutely crazy. And the 70 and 85 divisions right now, you just put them on hold. This fight could do the biggest numbers ever and launch the UFC to another level. They're willing to make those guys wait.
The problem is, you make this fight, you're going to ruin one of your stars, most likely George St-Pierre. That's what everybody feels. That
Everybody who? I don't feel that way.
You don't feel that Anderson Silva is going to hurt George St-Pierre in this fight?
No, I don't. I feel that George St-Pierre has every possibility to be able to come up with a game plan that's capable of putting Anderson Silva on his back for 25 minutes. Chael Sonnen did it for 24.
The first time, not the second time.
You know?
That first round, though, that was Chael Sonnen's round in the second fight. Let's also chat Rich Clemente announcing his retirement, and this also sparks a bit of interest coming out of UFC 154 because a lot of people curious at what Mark Hominick does now. This is 4 losses in a row right now. No one is going to question that this guy, always an exciting fighter. When you're running so many cards, I feel you need guys like that, and that's why when I look at a Dan Hardy or a Mark Hominick, I understand if they keep him around. But, John, what's your sense of what is next for Mark Hominick?
Well, I had a chance to read some of the forums to see what these fans are saying about Mark Hominick, and surprisingly, even though he's had 4 losses in a row, nobody is saying get rid of this guy. They know his fighting style. He's an exciting guy, and he's fighting top guys. He fought Jose Aldo, lost a decision, unfortunately was knocked out in quick fashion by Chan Sung Jung. But his other fights, Eddie Yangan, people didn't know who he was. Maybe Hominick took him lightly. And this last fight, Pablo Garza is a talented guy. I think Hominick can be used. People say maybe put him up against newcomers into the UFC or a guy like Cody McKenzie who's trying to build his name. I think Hominick is an attribute to the featherweight division. Keep him around. He's exciting.
This sport was built on honor and on respecting these great gladiators. And if there's any loyalty in the world, you keep Mark Hominick around. This guy helped build the sport in Canada, and he's a superstar.
You mentioned loyalty, and just quickly, that's always been a big part of Hominick's game plan. Would you argue almost too loyal in terms of maybe he needs a new camp at this point, change up things, get a different environment, and alter his game a bit?
Yeah, he's got to change something, no question. But he is a great, and he can do whatever the hell he wants. But definitely, if he changes something up, he can go right back to his old glory.
Sam went with Mark Delagrati. Chris Hordesky went to TriStar. I don't think it would hurt Mark Hominick at all.
All right, Sarah Davis, you're staying with our camp, right?
I totally am, especially because Ramdean has the best mustache ever. And you know what? Ramdean's not just growing that mustache so he can look like a wrestler. And I'm not just wearing this Movember and Sun shirt for fun. We're trying to raise awareness for men's health and prostate cancer by supporting Movember. Everyone can help us out and donate to the cause. Just visit our website, fightnetwork.com, and click on the Movember and Sons icon, and it'll take you straight to our page. So get clicking. All right, there's more fight news now, extra to come, so stay tuned.